You're listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, Soren Petro with you. We're talking Chiefs football. Training camp is off and running, so we'll be talking about Mahomes' comments and what we've seen from him on the field. What kind of progress is there? Eric Bieniemy stepping away from the team with obviously a horrible, tragic situation with his family. What kind of difference is that going to make for the team? What kind of difference is Eric Bieniemy going to make when he does return? ChadO'Shea improving the wide receiver position. We'll talk about which wideout we think could make the biggest jump for this football team. Cyrus Allen, a lot of people starting to get pretty big on him. We also got the renderings out for the new stadium. We will talk about a little reaction to that. Do it right now here on the Red, Gold, and Bold.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. We are off and running here on a Tuesday night. Remember, 9:30 Central is when you can be a part of the conversation. Got folks lining up in the chat room. We also do it Fridays at 10 a.m. And, gentlemen, let's get to it. We'll get to the Eric Bieniemy part of the equation in a minute, but the biggest story nationally, I was amazed. I was on ESPN radio last night. Was it last night? I think it was last night. And the Eric Bieniemy subject did not get brought up. It was all Patrick Mahomes. That's how big that story is. And it's also the Eric Bieniemy story is a difficult one to talk about. And it was probably like, we're going to have this guy on for 10, 12 minutes. Let's talk football and avoid what is a difficult, very difficult subject to talk about. But let's start with Patrick Mahomes. What do you think about what he said, Sam? His opening comments, how did that set the tone? How do you feel now about the Chiefs after hearing what he had to say?
Yeah, and this is a really big step. I mean, the fact that he's able to be with his teammates the entirety of training camp, I mean, even he acknowledged that this is a lot better than just having a couple weeks build up to the season. That means he was thinking about the possibility of only having a couple weeks build up to the season. And he didn't get cleared till 2 days before training camp. And so this was by no means a given. Like, he is obviously beaten most other players' timeline on this. I mean, Omar Norman-Lott is starting on PUP, and he tore his ACL, 2 months before Patrick Mahomes did, and that's the norm. Patrick Mahomes is the one that's on an accelerated timeline here, an unusual timeline here. I just think it's huge that he's going to be out there because, and we'll get to this isn't the only step he needs, is just to be cleared medically. There's a mental process, mental checkpoints that are going to be required that he passes along the way as well, because it's not just being told you're good to go. You got to feel like you're good to go. And now he has a much longer runway to get that feeling back.
Yeah. I think, he gets a chance to, go through the whole process. I mean, I think if we saw him just kind of standing around and then he's doing some light work and then, he gets in and then he just is practicing for the week before the game, before the first opening game, and you're going to think he's going to come in there and be ready. I mean, I think that'd be a really rough way to go. But, he sounded like he's ready to go. He has always talked in terms of reaching the different mile markers he needed to hit and working towards those things. Seems like he's checked off each box, out there playing. I do think he looks better now than he did at OTAs and minicamps. Sam, I'd be interested in your thoughts on that. But just overall, what you heard, Jeff, and the early returns, are you on the positive side?
Yeah, because I heard maturity, and there are things that he talked about in that press conference, and he's not. I mean, he's obviously a very likable guy. He's loved here, but he doesn't say a whole lot in his press conferences. I thought he was very reflective and very open about some things. He talked about not being able to run around with his kids, and talked about like looking at cinder block walls for weeks on end and being happy when other people were in the training room with him to get through this. And even I think he revealed a detail about coming back from a dislocated knee and jumping to throw a pass that he said looked cool on the highlights, but he was trying to get his knee out of there. He did it. So he had some concerns about re-injuring himself back when he was just starting out. And so I think all that stuff helps to understand that while he's worked really hard to get here and he deserves credit for that, he's also really aware that, as Sam said, there's some mental steps in here he's got to clear as well. And seeing a guy go through pass drops in a line where there's nobody rushing him is totally different than seeing him having to make a quick move, dart a certain direction. It'll be different when there's bigger bodies around him and guys coming after him. And hopefully there's no swelling or setbacks in this process. But, is he going to play in preseason games? How is he going to look in team drills? Like, all these are questions still to be asked. But I certainly felt like his maturity was on display when he talked.
Do you think he looks like he's moving better, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely moving better. And even he acknowledged, I think, to Jeff's point about his reflection, I think one of them was he acknowledged that he wasn't able to do as much, I think, as what people gave him credit for over the summer, even though he still was ahead of the normal schedule for this injury for an NFL player. I want to underscore one thing Jeff said, because I actually led my column with it the next day. He on his own brought up that Titans play. He on his own said, when I dislocated my kneecap and I came back, he had been cleared medically, but that Titans jump pass, I know it looks cool. You guys all think, I mean, when you go back, the Chiefs have it as like the 8th best play he's ever made, the Chiefs own website. And he's like, I'm just trying to get my knee out of there. And I asked him as a follow-up, well, when did you feel like you were okay? And he said after that play was when he was like, I'm good. He needs that. Something is going to have to give him that confidence. And he had been cleared medically, told he was okay. He wanted to go back into the game in Denver. This is 3 weeks later, 5 days later, and it still took something that he needed to experience firsthand before he said, I'm good. That needs to still come. And the doctor can't tell him that. He still needs to feel like he's good. And I don't know whether it's running from Chris Jones at training camp, whether it needs to play a preseason game, or whether it's going to take a regular season moment like it did in that moment in 2019 to feel he's okay. And I think the mental part of this is expressed in the fact that he was competing with Zach Ertz during the course of rehab, checking in on each other. Here's where I am, here's where you are. That proves that this is a mental grind as well. Like, he needs that juice. And this being in training camp every day is going to give him that juice. But like I said, he's going to need to experience something that makes him feel like, I'm back. Now I feel like myself again.
Yeah. So week 1, he goes. You feel that's where we are right now, Jeff? He'll be good to go for week 1?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt now. I think once he got that clearance, that's what he needed to hear. That's what he'd been working towards. And so it just gives him more momentum. Now, again, is he going to be 100% of what we've seen before? No, he's not. He might not even be 85% of what we're used to. I'm not talking about 85% healthy, but 85% of what he can do, what we've seen him be able to do. But I do believe when he comes out in week 1, we're probably going to see a little more conservative, a more conservative approach. He talked about getting rid of the ball faster and being more cognizant of that, and not trying to always hunt the big play. And so that, especially against the Denver Broncos defense, if you're out there trying to freelance and get big plays against that unit when you're still trying to work yourself back from an ACL tear, that's not a great way to go. So I think the first week, at least maybe the first couple of weeks, we'll see probably a more constrained Patrick Mahomes than what we're used to.
Yeah, that's interesting. Let's how do we measure the progress, Sam? Like, what do we, is it just on the feel of how he looks and how he's getting out the ball, or are there different little measuring sticks? Is it, okay, we've now seen him hit. We've now seen him take somebody on. I'd like him to stop doing that, but that's something that he's done in the past. We've seen him, we see him evade and get outside. What are going to be the things that you check off and say, okay, this is where I know progress is being made?
Yeah, I do think it's going to be more anecdotal and therefore harder to measure, because while he said, my plan is to be able to do everything that I've always been able to do. And then he said, but I do think I ran the ball too much last year.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think the natural answer to your question, Soren, would be, let's see if he still scrambles. Let's see if he still moves out of the pocket. Let's see if he's still willing to take off. He already thinks he did too much of that last year, regardless of this injury. And he also acknowledges, I got to protect myself better. And so I don't think if we see him do that, that's necessarily a sign that he's not feeling good. It might actually just be a smarter adjustment that he's made. This injury did come as a result of a scramble play, trying to protect himself from a hit, to where I think he could say, you know what, I don't have to do that as much. Maybe I shouldn't do that as much. And that is going to be as much on the rest of the Chiefs offense and their execution as it is Patrick Mahomes, because you can't take the competitor out of them. And if it's 3rd and 5 and the offense is doing nothing, you mentioned him running over guys last year. So those came in the first 2 weeks of the season. The offense was doing nothing at the time against the Chargers in Brazil and against the Eagles. If the offense doesn't do anything, I could see him still doing that stuff.
Yeah. Renee said it. Mahomes was scrambling because the receivers couldn't get open. I mean, that is a problem, for them. And that's one of the reasons why they have new receivers coaches. We'll see if that, what kind of impact that makes. We'll get into that here in a little bit. Should he even play in a preseason game? Do you think he needs to at least get a series or two, or is it, he got one series, I think it was last year. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was a couple, but I thought it was just one series.
Yeah,
overall.
He didn't play in Seattle because, it was going to potentially be raining. It was on turf. And I don't think the Chiefs were real pumped about going west twice in the preseason.
By the way, Pat, already weighed in. Should he play in the preseason, Jeff?
It depends on the circumstances. If you're talking about what happened in Seattle, then no. But if you can get him out there for a series or two and run some stuff where he can just get back into the feel of that, if you don't do it, it's going to be in the back of his mind when he's playing in real games. And so I just think from the standpoint of being able to get out, run around, feel good about what you're doing, you can't bubble wrap the guy, but I just don't think it makes sense to put that off. That's a huge checkpoint in his recovery process. Being out there, real bullets flying, real guys chasing after him, and being able to operate in a way that he's accustomed to.
Yeah, and playing against competition that does not have his best interest at heart is different than running from, Chris
defensive
Jones
linemen
and,
that know
and
that
George
they can't touch him.
Yes, he can't wear a yellow jersey during a preseason game. There's a wrinkle to this question, though, Soren, is for whatever reason, the Chiefs play 2 preseason teams that they play in the regular season, which is really bizarre to me already. And they're 2 teams that rush the passer, which is the Rams and the Seahawks. Now, the Seahawks is the last preseason game. I doubt they play their guys. A lot of teams are going against that. But you talk about going from guys that have the best interest to guys that really don't give a crap about your health. I mean, 2 teams that play in the regular season, that one just won a Super Bowl, one has Super Bowl aspirations and might think you're a contender. I don't think they're going to try and injure Mahomes. That's not what I'm saying, but they're not going to just one-hand touch him. When they're around him, they'll be hitting him, they'll be tackling him.
I will say that I think he needs to play. I don't think he needs to play a lot, but I think he needs to get in there, hand off. I think he needs to drop back. He needs to throw up, but it needs to be some rhythm timing stuff where really there's no chance for anyone to get to him, because I think he needs to get that feel back of, okay, I'm out on the field. I think that's, as you put it, Sam, another box to check. Okay, I've now had people coming at me. Okay, I've now, I got hit on the shoulder, but I would play it very safe, but I think he does need to get in there. You don't want him, because I also think one of the reasons is it's all about Patrick Mahomes, and we know Patrick Mahomes is the most important thing for winning games, but they got to get out faster. I don't think this is a year where you can start 0-2 again. Last year, we all kept going, they'll get it going. We've seen this before. It's not a problem. It will be a very different reaction if they come out of the gate slow this time. And so I think he needs to play so that he can get off to a decent start, so that this team can get off to a decent start, because I don't think they want to come bumbling out of the gates. I think that's a big problem.
Yeah. Well, that, and if you're talking about doing more stuff under center, things that he's never done in his career, really at that level, the timing part of the passing game changes when you're doing stuff like that. He's got to start doing stuff like that in real time.
Yeah,
not just when it's a perfect, ideal situation in practice.
To underscore your point, Soren, about the start of the season, because I've thought that as well, is it's not just about last year. I mean, when you go back, Patrick Mahomes is 6-9 in his last 15 starts. You start 0-2 and you're 6-11, and your last set, you won 6 of your last 17. The team therefore would have won 6 of its last 20. I mean, that stuff starts to add up to where that could have a cumulative effect. Where, I mean, that's already, to me, one of the most interesting parts of this Chiefs team is they shouldn't have the confidence that they've had for the last 7 years. And if you start 0-2, you start having questions about where their mindset is.
I'll remind people too that they start the season with 2 home games. So if you go 0-2, and they play 9 road games. So if you go 0-2, you're staring down the barrel of 15 games, 9 of them on the road. Okay. And you're at 0-2. Like it will build in a negative fashion really quick. That's my opinion. And so I do think it's important to make sure that it's about him getting to the regular season healthy, but he also needs to play well. If you think this is a year that you have a chance to compete, then he needs to be out there and be ready to play. All right, we'll take a break. We'll get into Eric Bieniemy, what the Chiefs are going to be missing. We'll do that after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. If your property needs asphalt or concrete work, Gann Asphalt and Concrete is ready to help you. From parking lots and drive lanes to sidewalks, curbs, patching, seal coating, crack filling, and repairs. Their experienced crews handle projects of all sizes throughout the entire Kansas City metro. Whether you're fixing problem areas or planning a larger paving project, Gann focuses on quality workmanship and dependable service from start to finish. No matter what shape your pavement is in today, they can help improve it. Request a free estimate and learn more at GannAsphalt.com. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lots. Italian Delight was the first restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. They sell whole pies or pizza by the slice, or enjoy their classic strombolis, calzones, and sausage rolls. Sandwich lovers, check out their lineup of hot and cold subs, the combo, the meatball, or the Philly cheesesteak, just to name a few. And don't forget the pasta. Their famous lasagna and classic chicken Alfredo always hit the spot. And if you're hungry for lunch, check out their daily lunch specials, starting at under $10. Italian Delight can even cater your next work function or party. Dine in, carry out, or delivery, it's Italian Delight. Located just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave in KCK. Check out the menu and order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Kansas City's own Italian Delight. All right, by the way, and I'll remind folks that Italian Delight back open tomorrow. The Brunetti family, first family vacation in 20 plus years.
It's about damn time.
Yeah, it's about damn time. Renee's in the chat room. He had some people going, you gonna finally be open? So you can get over to Italian Delight starting tomorrow. So they will be back at it, slinging pizzas, throwing the dough in the air, doing all the things that they love to do. More than 50 years, locally owned and operated. Italian Delight over there on State Ave. Go see them tomorrow as they're back open. And welcome back to town, Renee. Long vacation for the family. So I hope it was a good one. I look forward to hearing about it. Let's talk a little bit about where things are right now with Eric Bieniemy. Listen, I'm just going to say this. I cannot believe the behavior of some people in talking about this. I'm going to say this is the first and foremost, the most important thing is the family and how rough this is. And you and I talked about this a little bit today, Sam, on the radio show, and what it must have been like if you have a family, if you have kids, to get a call like he would have gotten, no matter who it came from. I can't even imagine what it would have felt like and what he's, got to do. And what he is dealing with right now. So, yeah, I think all of us would agree. I think it gets used way too much. Thoughts and prayers, but I think that this is a really, really difficult situation, and the human element is first and foremost. And Eric Bieniemy will be gone as long as he needs to be gone, because the family comes first. And I would say that I think Andy Reid has done a very good job. Wasn't supposed to talk. came out and talked, answered questions. We knew there weren't going to be a lot of answers. He also knew that there were questions that needed to be asked, like, is there a timeline for his return? And of course there is not, but that question needed to be asked and he answered it. Just, what does it do, Jeff? First of all, probably Eric better than anybody. Sam and I have covered him. I think you've covered him for a while and go back a ways with him. Just your first of all, your reaction to it, and then we'll get to what it does to the football team.
Yeah, we go back to college. He was at Colorado when I was at Wyoming, and we, spent a lot of time around each other. My roommate was buddies with the backup quarterback then, so we were always in Boulder. So I've known him a long time and had a lot of respect for him as a person. Saw him on Friday when they were checking in, the quarterbacks and the rookies, and we talked, and he was joking about how his wife had dragged him down to the Virgin Islands for, I guess every year he and his old college teammates get together, and I was saying nobody drags you to the Virgin Islands, first of all, but he was just talking about just being happy to be back. And then this happens, and I was in shock when I heard it, because I know how much family means to him, and how much it meant to be back here and to get back on the job. And so, yeah, I mean, I covered police for a long time, for a few years, starting my career as a journalist. And you see these kind of stories, and people don't realize, again, that's his wife, obviously affected by this. She's in the hospital. His son is on charges, looking at being in prison potentially for the rest of his life. And he's got another kid who the wife was taking care of, who's, I believe, had some kind of disability. So this is not like an easy go in, check it out, wife's all right, let me go back to work. I mean, I have, however long it takes him to figure this out, he deserves it, because his life just exploded.
Yes,
in front of him. And I hope that people can understand that whatever he means to the Chiefs, that's secondary to what this means to him as a dad and a husband. And he's trying to fix a lot of things that nobody should have to go through.
Yeah, I mean, Soren, you said it, but it's really hard. It's been hard for me to get that image out of my mind of him being informed by this, because there are an incredible amount of tragic things for him to consider all at once with his son. I mean, it's news, the video being released of his son getting arrested, and your first thought watching that is Eric Bieniemy watching that. And, obviously his wife in the hospital needed to undergo surgery, and, in stable condition, which seems like, somehow this could have been an even worse outcome. And then Eric III has cerebral palsy, and, Mia Bieniemy is the primary caregiver for Eric III. So he has so much to consider, that the football aspect of this, which the Chiefs had to move on that next day, because they do have practice that next day, but it just has to be, I would think, so far from his mind, because, I mean, what a tragic thing for him to be going through, and, disappointing thing for him to be going through.
It's crushing. It's heartbreaking. And you've said it a couple of times, Sam. You said it today about, on both ends. I mean, he's getting hit on both ends of this, because it's two people that he cares about. And so knowing how the young man's life is broken now. I mean, and I don't know how you repair it. And, his wife, it's so awful to think about it. And, I want to stress the football is whenever it comes back to being football, but that is what we do on this podcast, is talk about football. So if he's gone, Jeff, I mean, I think we're talking weeks,
Oh yeah.
I don't think we're going to see. What does that do to this team losing? We were already hearing the reports. Boy, he's on him. And you saw him bouncing down the hill, like the energy that he was bringing, just coming down the hill and headed into practice. It was great to see. He had a big smile on his face. You could tell he was loving being back here. He's had a couple of trying years. And so that football part of the equation is now ripped away from him as well. And ripped away from the football team as a guy that they were really counting on to be a lot of the energy and emotion.
Yeah. I mean, no doubt. I mean, I know Andy's lost a son. I was thinking about Tony Dungy when his son committed suicide, years ago. And I was actually around Tony Dungy. He came back to work, I think, really fast. I think he was back within a week after it happened. And I was actually happy. I was working for Sports Illustrated, and I just had to go see him walking into a meeting room and talk to him. And I remember just how, Tony's a cerebral guy and very mellow, very laid back. And so you didn't really feel, you knew it hurt him, but he was still being Tony Dungy. I think with Eric Bieniemy, anything short of like you said, just the energy and just the toughness and the way he carries himself, to see him subdued in some way, that's going to have a huge impact on this team whenever he returns. And it's going to have a huge impact while he's gone, because he was brought in here for a specific reason, which was to bring accountability and toughness and push guys more. And now that person is not going to be around at a very pivotal time for a lot of these young players to learn about the importance of that. Like, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, like all these other young guys, Josh Simmons, they haven't been around Eric Bieniemy. And so, I know you can figure out the procedural part, and the Joe Blameyer, the ChadO'Shea, all those guys will pick it up and try to help out where they can, but it's a huge loss, and there's no way around it.
What do they lose? Is it they lose part of Blameyer's looking at the big picture now that he kind of steps into that role? Do they lose ChadO'Shea now, has to factor in to being part of the passing game coordination? So that takes him away from trying to rebuild that wide receiver, try to get more out of those wide receivers, because they lean on that part of it. He's got that experience in his job. Does DeMarco Murray, who was really going to have a guy, DeMarco Murray's been a running back coach at OU, hadn't been a running back coach in the NFL. Is that where we see, he was probably going to lean on Bieniemy, and Bieniemy was going to be there to really, kind of guide him on, here's how we do it in the pros, here's how we do it in Andy's system. Well, what all do they miss? And, Sam, and with just the actual football aspect?
Yeah, I think what they miss is now. Look, Joe Blameyer is equipped to be an offensive coordinator in the NFL. He's very much, people who don't know him can at least get a glimpse of him while listening to his press conferences and tell me that the guy isn't in tune with every aspect of a passing play. Like, he can handle that job. What you miss is the reason you hired Eric Bieniemy, and specifically in that job, was to give his voice the authority that it sounds like it has when he speaks. And like, that time is now. It's to provide the discipline. It's to establish the way of the everyday world for the Chiefs. It's, to reestablish the culture that they had, and not rely on the quarterback to be establishing the culture at training camp every day, because you have his booming voice instead supplying it. And I actually think it's not just about the young guys, because of course it's mostly about them and the guys in the receivers room that we've talked about that, probably could use some more discipline. But I think it's about the vets too. Patrick Mahomes wanted this, and now he's going to. And Travis Kelce wanted this. Travis Kelce's first day at camp now, the first thing he's going to be thinking is that Eric Bieniemy is not there, and he's been looking forward to being coached by Eric Bieniemy again. And now that guy's not there. So I think it has every bit as much of an imprint on the guys who know him as the guys who need him.
How do we measure the impact he's going to make? Is it all in the running backs? Is it just the attitude? The wins and losses are what everybody's ultimately measured by, but how are we going to measure the effect whenever Eric Bieniemy does get back? Is there a way to quantify it, Jeff?
That's a hard question to ask. I don't know if you can quantify it, because there's so much intangible to it. As far as his own strengths, right? It's not going to be a question of he comes in and he's calling the game differently, or like a guy who would have the play calling duties like a Ben Johnson had in Detroit. But I do think, one, when he does come back, he'll be focused on being here and doing the best he can. I have no doubt about that. I was thinking also about other teams that have gone through some kind of tragedies, not like this, but I know the Ravens lost their offensive line coach. He passed away before the season a couple of years ago, and they were able to make that work. People forget this, but Tom Brady became Tom Brady partly because the quarterback coach with the Patriots died in training camp I think early in the summer, before he got to be a starter. And Bill Belichick was coaching the quarterbacks because they didn't have a quarterback coach. And he learned about what Tom Brady could be, so he felt more comfortable going to him when Drew Bledsoe went down back in those days. So there may be some hidden blessings in this for some coaches having to move around, maybe for Andy having to do different things to try to make up for this until Eric Bieniemy's back. Sometimes with this team, we kind of feel like they'll just flip the switch, make some changes, get back to being what we know. But this is, a reminder that it's not always that easy, that there's things that pop up that change the entire complexion of the season you're about to embark on.
Yeah. You got any way to quantify it, Sam?
Like when he's back?
Yeah. Like what we're going to, we'll be like, okay, that's the impact right there. It is.
Yeah, I would say let's count the number of times that Andy Reid says they need to clean things up this year and compare it to last year.
Okay.
That's why you brought him in. Like, you brought him in because you wanted to be more focused on the details, and that's the voice that he had in the first 2 days of rookie camp. And Soren, you referenced this, but I was out there at rookie camp, and as usual, we kind of stopped making a big deal about this because he had coached on the staff for 10 years. His first go around, when his voice is gone for 3 years, all of a sudden you're like, wow, that voice is really loud.
Yeah.
Every freaking play at training camp. And it's, to be candid, it's F-bomb this, F-bomb that. And sometimes it's good. Like, it's not every time he uses the F-bomb, he's not cussing somebody out. Sometimes it's good crap, stuff like that. Like, he's positive too. But it's even when you're complimenting something small, it reminds the guys, I'm looking at everything on this play. You better be in tune with the details.
Yeah, I that is one of the things. And listen, I go back to what the kind of reaction was when he was hired from Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, who kept talking about accountability. And, and I think that was going to go, and that might have even been, like Travis Kelce having drops and things like that. I think, Eric Bieniemy would confront him about it. And that was a problem last year. But I think especially with the wide receivers, I think they were sloppy. And I think ChadO'Shea will do that as well. But I mean, no one gets away with it. The enemy is hollering at everybody out there. And, I think that is something that, to your point, it's right now, Sam. This is the time. This is probably the most important. There's no good time for this to happen. And you don't wish it happened some other time of the year. But this was probably where he was going to make his biggest impact on the team. And now that's not going to happen. So that is a big loss for this. I mean, they can't overcome it, but it's a big loss for this team. I think that goes without saying. So, all right, we want to get into ChadO'Shea. We want to get more into those wide receivers. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Italian Delight. Italian Delight was the first restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. They sell whole pies or pizza by the slice, or enjoy their classic strombolis, calzones, and sausage rolls. Sandwich lovers, check out their lineup of hot and cold subs, the combo, the meatball, or the Philly cheesesteak, just to name a few. And don't forget the pasta. Their famous lasagna and classic chicken Alfredo always hit the spot. If you're hungry for lunch, check out their daily lunch specials, starting at under $10. Italian Delight can even cater your next work function or party. Dine in, carry out, or delivery, it's Italian Delight. Located just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave in KCK. Check out the menu and order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Kansas City's own Italian Delight. Your parking lot says a lot about your business. Cracks, potholes, faded striping, and damaged concrete can create safety concerns and leave the wrong impression with customers. Gann Asphalt and Concrete helps Kansas City businesses protect their properties with asphalt paving, seal coating, crack filling, parking lot striping, concrete work, and repairs. Their experienced crews deliver quality workmanship and dependable service on every project. Whether you need routine maintenance or a complete parking lot overhaul, Gann is ready to help you. Get started today with a free estimate at GannAsphalt.com. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lots. All right, let's talk a little bit about the wide receiver room. ChadO'Shea will improve the wide receivers. How, Sam? What are you looking for how that's going to look different?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, he stands on the sideline during practice, as all position coaches do. Steve Spagnuolo stands behind the defense, and then Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy typically stand behind the offense. You can hear ChadO'Shea too. Like, he's a vocal guy. Dave Merritt's a vocal guy for the defense. I think there's a lot of ways that he can help the offense. I think you even think about a guy like Xavier Worthy. It's just, I think Xavier Worthy runs at 100% speed all the time. And I think, he could probably use some coaching on when's the right time to accelerate, when's the right time to hesitate, when's the right time just to let it fly, as opposed to kind of gathering yourself and making sure you're on balance. It's a recognition of coverage. Cyrus Allen talked about that on Sunday, that Andy Reid had pulled him aside and told him how to, like, ChadO'Shea can help with that. It's lining up correctly. It's knowing where to be so that you can play at full speed. And that's something we saw with Jalen Royals last year, is that you don't know exactly everything and every assignment on the field, and therefore you don't have time to recognize coverage pre-snap. It can be tough to play at full speed. I think there's a lot of ways that a wide receiver coach can have his imprint on the offense.
Yeah. What do you think we'll see? Where do you think he'll make the difference, Jeff?
I think a lot of that that Sam just said, but also just, and some of that's discipline. But you got to remember, Patrick Mahomes has typically had these receivers to himself, in the offseason, be able to work with them and letting them know what he wants, how he wants things to be. And I often wonder sometimes if some of these newer guys have come into it thinking, well, Pat's going to make me money, going to make me special, and to get me the ball, whatever. And maybe it's time for them to understand, like, we got to make Pat's life easier. And so we got to be better at what we do at our craft. And so I think that's where ChadO'Shea could probably help the most. So I think about the guys Tom Brady was throwing to when O'Shea was there, and those weren't household names when they showed up. But those guys, the Danny Amendolas, the Edelmans, the Chris Hogans, people that they made a lot of plays for those guys in a lot of big games because they were professionals and they knew what was expected of them, and they went out there expecting to do things to make the offense better. So to me, that's just having a lot of these guys grow up. That's what ChadO'Shea can bring to it.
They dumbed down the offense a lot. Are we going to be able to see anything for the preseason? Are we going to be able to see anything there, Sam, or is this going to be the kind of thing it's not really going to pop until we get to the regular season?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to wait to the regular season to judge this kind of impact because of what you said. I don't think we're going to be seeing stuff. Look, I mean, the Chiefs practice in front of us every day. They also have walkthroughs and doors without us, to where I think a lot of the stuff that, more complex stuff, that they don't want to be on film for the world. So, I think it's going to take to that. I just will add, Soren, I'm glad you put this question on a rundown, because this is also really an offshoot of EB being gone, is all your position coaches, but ChadO'Shea being at the top of the list are going to have to carry a bit more of the load than they thought in training camp.
Yeah, for sure. Which wide receiver, Jeff, do you expect to make the biggest jump in 26? Rice, Worthy, Tyquan Thornton, Jalen Royals? I mean, there's a number of names you can look to, but I mean, we'll talk about Cyrus Allen in a minute, but he's new. Who do you think can make the biggest jump this year?
Honestly, I think it's Tyquan Thornton, because I felt like there was more meat left on the bone with him last year, and that he had some really good moments early on, and then he kind of got lost in the shuffle once Xavier Worthy got back in the mix and couldn't really find a home. But he made some nice plays. He flashed a lot, and he showed the kind of downfield speed and the kind of ability to make plays down the field that we've been waiting to see from Xavier Worthy for a long time. And so I think that he has the most opportunity to grow. He's got the biggest room to grow. The other two guys on that list who have played, Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, we know a lot more about who they are. I think we'll learn more about Tyquan Thornton based on how he plays.
Interesting. Who do you think has the chance to make the biggest jump, Sam?
Well, statistically, it's a no-brainer. I mean, Jalen Royals with one catch could quintuple last year's production in week one. So,
well, but I mean, do you see
4 yards last year?
Right. As far as
my serious answer is I think Xavier Worthy is the guy who has the talent to be more than what he's been statistically. And I'm interested to see tomorrow morning they open up the camp with veterans. Is he still wearing the yellow jersey? Is he back to where he can absorb some contact? Is this going to be a thing throughout training camp that we're talking about deep into training camp? Because from sight and from people I've talked to, Xavier Worthy has never been more coachable than he's been this year. And it's not people saying he hasn't been coached for the last 2 years, but I think he's eager to get more out of himself than what he's gotten out of the last couple of years.
I think the questions he was getting at the end of the year, the questions that the wide receivers were getting at the end of the year, I don't think that's a feeling you like to like to hear. Plus, I think you get Bieniemy, and I think the wide receivers were marked men. I think Eric Bieniemy, whatever we see at practice, whatever you saw at OTAs and mini camp, Sam, I think there's probably a lot more behind closed doors. I mean, I think Chad, like, if that doesn't make a statement to you that the OC, they brought in a guy who's there to kick ass, and then they bring in a new wide receivers coach. If that isn't a statement that you guys weren't good enough, I don't know what is, right? And so I think Xavier Worthy is the guy I would lean to, but I think if I didn't say him, I'd say Tyquan Thornton. I just don't. Rashi Rice would have to become really, really good to be able to take a step forward, because we've seen him play very productive football over the stretch of 15, 16 games over 2 years. We've seen him really look like he could be a very productive player. It's the other guys that we've just seen little flashes. We saw a flash for like a game or two out of Tyquan Thornton. We've seen a couple of big plays here or there out of Xavier Worthy, and we have seen nothing out of Jalen Royals. I mean, nothing out of Jalen Royals. I mean, to the point where it's like they seemed fearful of getting him anywhere near the field. And that's kind of shocking, because this team played Kadarius Toney for years. Okay. And they wouldn't let this guy near the field. How bad did that look? Because Kadarius Toney couldn't catch and didn't seem to know any of the routes, and he still got on the field, and this guy couldn't get on the field. So that's a little bit frightening as far as I'm concerned. How about Cyrus Allen? What is the best Cyrus Allen can be in your mind this year, Jeff? Well, there's some exciting people like what he has to say. People are liking how he looks out on the field. What can he be this year?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I remember, was it a few years ago where they had that running back, what they called the hamster or something like that, or it was a guy who had all his buzz. He was like a fantasy darling for a few weeks in training camp, and then he just vanished.
Was you talking about Steele?
Carson Steele?
Carson Steele?
No, going further back. This guy was like a smaller running back. It was probably like 21, 22, and they were still rolling high offensively.
Darwin Thompson?
Yeah, that's the guy, Darwin Thompson.
Okay.
Yeah, Darwin Thompson. And everybody was, what's this guy going to be in this offense? And you never heard from him again. I don't think Cyrus Allen's going to end up being that way, but it reminds me of the buzz around.
I don't even think Darwin Thompson has his jersey in the St. Joe rafters. I mean, there's some other dudes on that list I think he could have gone with Jody Fortson. I mean, Robert Tunyon last year. I remember Darius Fountain was. I mean, his name was all over the place. Jason Brownlee last year. Justin Ross,
You're making my case for me. It's like we just talked about Jalen Royals not playing hardly at all. And as good as Cyrus Allen has been looking right now, from what I'm hearing and the route running and all this stuff, he's still playing a position they haven't really utilized in his offense. Throughout the time Patrick Mahomes has been the quarterback, he's really a slot guy, not like a super fast guy. He's quick, right? He's got good route running ability, but I want to see how this works when he's actually lined up against real DBs with other guys out there, and how he's going to fit into that. And it's a lot harder in this offense to get on the field and make plays. Rashee Rice did it because they had no other options. Like I said, Kadarius Toney was dropping passes. Sky Moore was a disaster. Let's dumb down the offense, make it work for Rashee. They're not going to do that for Cyrus Allen, and that makes me think that a lot of buzz early, but October, November, we're not going to be talking about it.
And it's one thing. I do like his ability to get off the line. I mean, I think he looks really good at being able to set a guy up and get away from him and get that release. But you're also usually watching him in a drill where it's just one-on-one, where there's no wide receiver next to him that you can't. It's kind of like you see a lot of these, guys get a sack in the one-on-one drills, but they're looping way out around. It's like you're running into three other linemen. If you take that angle out there, that's not really a sack. You've got to do it in the phone booth to make it work. There's a little bit of that in the release stuff that, like, if you're, coming 6 yards in and, there's a route that's coming underneath, you can't take all that space. That's what we don't know. I'm not saying he can't do it, but I really like the springiness of which he gets off that line, but I want to see him do it where it's confined into the route that he is required to run, giving the space to the other receivers. But man, I do like what he has to say. I mean, I definitely think he looks like seems like a sharp kid for sure. So I'm looking at wide receivers taken late who blew up big. I'm not ready to say he's going to be big. Albert Wilson is still my comp for where I think he, would be real happy if he ends up being that kind of wide receiver. But man, you'd love to dream a dream that they hit on a guy. It's been a little while since, Travis Kelce, he was third, which actually would have been a second now. But getting Tyreek Hill in the fifth was a huge hit for this franchise.
Yeah.
And you need to get those. L'Jarius Sneed in the fourth. You need some of those every now and then. And it'd be great if he was if he was one of those guys, because a wide receiver is a position they need.
Yeah, but Sam can answer this too. It's like I feel like he's got to play in the slot, and everybody they talk about, man, if he could put Rasheed in the slot, look what he could do. Travis Kelce's got to be in the slot. Xavier Howard's got. Everybody can't always be in the slot, and so I just think there's a long list of guys he's behind when it comes to having opportunities.
Yeah, about the same size, about the same 40, and drafted a little higher than Antonio Brown. I'm just saying. Saying.
If he's Austin King, I'd be happy.
Jeff just touched on it, but like Rashee Rice plays over half of his snaps in the slot. Travis Kelce plays in the slot a ton, but the best version of Cyrus Allen, if you like want to dream big about him, is that he's really good against man. Like he's much better against man than he is against zone, and that's where the Chiefs have struggled. Last year in college, he had more yards per route run than Jordan Tyson against. This is just against man to man, than Jordan Tyson and Mekhi Lemon. Just on a per route basis, like his numbers against man were terrific. But it's what you said, Soren, about doing this in a more confined space in the NFL. There's less space to operate. It's about doing it against harder or tougher contact, which we haven't seen him in contact yet. And the other thing is, he just talked Saturday or Sunday, like I mentioned earlier, about the fact that Andy Reid pulled him aside and was like, hey, here was the coverage on that. You should have recognized this pre-snap. You got to do that in the NFL. They're like, there's not time to think in the way that there is, after the snap, and the way that there is in college, because guys don't bust coverage nearly as frequently in the NFL. Like you've got to make them show the weakness, and that takes time. And that's the part where I think we're most in the dark about how quickly that process is going to happen for him.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. All right, let's finish with this. We saw renderings, Jeff, of what the new stadium will look like. Clear roof. You can see the flyover through the clear roof. 70,000 seats, we're hearing. Arrowhead-like peaks in the corners. What was your reaction to what you saw of those first renderings the Chiefs released?
It looked cool to me. I mean, I guess when it comes to stadiums, I'm always more into what the inside looks like and how the outside. I know that's all fun for the drone shots, but end of the day, it's like you're not going to make it Arrowhead just by putting some peaks in there and some different angles. I think it depends on the quality inside. And so, but I think they're going in the right direction. I like the roof. I like the opportunity of having it be open air, and when it's nice outside, and closing it when it's cold.
Oh, it's not open air.
No.
It's not. Don't mistake that. It is not open air.
Closed.
Oh, it's closed. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't get that part.
That's the translucent roof you're seeing there, Jeff.
Well,
cool in your eyes.
I got to go with that. Spend a little more money. Open that roof up when you want to open it up.
I would always like to have a retractable roof, but I get no one's building them anymore. Everyone's like, the people who spent the money on them don't open them very often. Why are we going to spend the money?
Atlanta did.
Yeah. Atlanta did, but right now, Nashville, Cleveland, and I think whatever the little bit that Chicago or Indiana.
I don't know what Jacksonville has, but I mean, Denver's going to be indoors, I think.
Jacksonville is supposedly doing a thing like the Rams, where it's open air, but there'll be a roof that covers it, is my understanding. But I do think that Chiefs, Nashville, and Cleveland are all closed.
Denver, I think, is going to be closed as well.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I mean, I think they're looking at it and going, we just don't get that much use out of it for what the cost is.
Well, they want other events there. I mean, they think a Super Bowl can come there if it's closed, and a Final Four. And
no, I mean retractable. I don't think anybody's. I don't think anyone's thinking open air anymore. I mean,
I was told at one point that would add another like 25% of the price. But
yeah, I've heard it's quite expensive.
So if the World Cup came back,
my understanding is
it wouldn't be able to be.
It will. They will build the field big enough that they won't have to take seats out like they did at Arrowhead.
Yeah,
I'm
talking about the grass, the open air. They put.
It will have grass, and I can tell you. There are two stadiums in New Zealand that grow grass indoors, but I think it'll end up with a rolling tray like Glendale, because it helps you do more events. And
the Raiders have that as well, where they technically have grass.
do they have a trade that rolls out in Vegas?
Yeah, because the UNLV plays there as well and uses a different field.
That's right. So they got multiple. I think that's what you'll see from the Chiefs.
It's
a lot easier to roll concrete 6 inches off the ground than it is to roll concrete 150 feet in the air.
The World Cup, though, more immediate question is actually in 2031 with the Women's World Cup, which Kansas City is in the mix for. First, it has to be awarded to the U.S., but my first reaction to the renderings were, it feels like they're trying to keep one foot in the door as they exit.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to give it this Arrowhead look. They're trying to tell, hey, the Arrowhead flyover is going to remain. Hey, the Arrowhead tailgating is going to remain. Hey, the Arrowhead volume is going to remain. The Arrowhead drum deck, I don't know anyone who was pissed that they're going to lose the drum deck at Arrowhead, but the Arrowhead drum deck is going to migrate 20 miles down the road to Kansas. And I feel like you're gone. Just exit. If you're leaving Arrowhead, then you're leaving Arrowhead. I don't think people are attached to Arrowhead because the Bulls bow out at the end. Yeah. They're attached to Arrowhead because of the environment, because of the memories and the way that place makes them feel. And I don't think it's about the aesthetics of the fact that it bows out at the end. The open air, I think, adds to it. You're losing that. And so I think you're leaving Arrowhead behind. And this feels like they're trying to move it and take it with them and slap a roof on the end. And look, there's a lot of work that gets put into it. I'm not trying to shit on this at all, but I do think that like if you're going to just build the best stadium you want to build. And if that has elements of Arrowhead, great.
I think that's what they would tell you they've done.
No, they absolutely have told me that they wanted to take pieces of.
No, I know, but I think they think that taking pieces of Arrowhead is building the best stadium you can build. I think they think all of those things are amenities that they want. I think they would refer to it. I don't think people are reacting as strongly, but they would refer to it as just when the Royals hatched their renderings. Everyone's like, "Where's the crown? Where is the giant scoreboard? Where are the fountains? We want those things." Like, the Royals are going to incorporate that in some way into what their stadium is. I think the Chiefs heard that for one. They're like, okay, when I was a season ticket holder for years, I'd get these surveys every now and then. What do you want? What it is? And I'm sure they did that with their people.
Yeah, 30-some thousand, I think, replied.
Yeah. And so, my rub is like the video board sucks. Like, they've got to find a way to get a big, impressive video board. I will tell you, the oval video board at Arrowhead sucks. It's always sucked. It's dumb. You're losing.
I think it's supposed to be like a football shape. I will tell you, I've been to every stadium in the NFL. I agree with you that the video board is not impressive.
It's
and the video boards do stand out at the places you go to.
They do. And I'm not saying you got to go clear to Jerry Dome where it's just absolutely overwhelming, but you need big badass screens that show you everything you're seeing at home. Like when you lose that stuff in the corners, you feel like, what am I peering through a hole in the door or something here? Like, what is this shit? Give me the whole screen.
Hey, I already used shit. You weren't allowed to use it. Now we're above our quota.
Double no.
Now we got to put the little E next to the this podcast episode, I think.
I'm sorry. You're right. My bad. But that's my knock. That's part of the experience. Otherwise, I'll stay home so I can watch the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, give me that great television view that a lot of these stadiums have. It doesn't, like I said, there's different ways to do it. Just figure out a way to do it and give me the best view. I do want to ask you this, because some people have reacted and they say, well, it looks like a Pringle. Looks like a Pringle chip. Potato chip. I don't like the shape of it, how it kind of like bows up.
That's what Arrowhead does.
Yeah.
It just doesn't have the top on it. So, and that's what I'm saying. I think
I actually like that because I think it makes it look different than other domes.
Sure. And I could totally see that as well. If that's the best way to do it, if that's the best design that you can come up with, I just think when you build a new stadium, it's a blank slate. And it doesn't look to me like they took a blank slate approach to this and just said, $3 billion, what's the best we can do for $3 billion? It's like, what's the best way we can build a new Arrowhead for $3 billion? And like I said, you left Arrowhead. You chose to leave the place. And look, the voters turned that down in 2024. It was packaged with the a messy Royals plan, but they eventually chose to leave. And it just seems like they're trying to like hitch it to their team bus and like drive it over to Kansas and slap the roof on top.
Are they calling it Arrowhead? I didn't catch that.
No, I mean, look, the renderings just said Chiefs Stadium, and it didn't say Arrowhead. And I've wondered about that because I don't know if that would sit well with people like if they took Arrowhead, but the renderings they released kind of make it seem like they will take Arrowhead with it because that's what they're trying to do. But I don't know that people would really approve of that.
I was a little surprised at 70,000 seats. I will say that.
I was too.
That's a lot.
That's more than, I've been hearing more in like the 65 range, 64 range, and that's been kind of more the norm. 70,000 is a lot. So in this day and age, but I'm going to tell you this, it's going to be a massive building because you're going to want all these different amenities. And if you're going to have 70,000 seats with wider field, bigger concourses, all this.
More suites that take up, more space to have one seat.
Yeah, it's going to be very big. And they did say 20,000 more parking space. And I will tell you that's one thing is I am confident that it will not be the renovation of Arrowhead screwed up the traffic flow. And it has sucked ever since they renovated it because they took out lanes on the inner side. It just jams up right away. That's one thing they can't screw up. It needs to be easier to get in and out. And because to your point, Sam, blank slate, design the roads, design the access points where people can get in and out. That needs to happen. I think that's important for everybody's fan experience. What needs to happen is Renee needs to open Italian Delight. They'll be open tomorrow after the family has been on vacation, so you can go see them. 8145 State Avenue, just a few miles east. Remember, lunch special starting at under $10. The first to bring true New York style pizza to Kansas City was our friends at Italian Delight, and they are back open. So whether it's lasagna, chicken Alfredo, their subs, strombolis, calzones, get over there. Italian Delight, great sponsor here for the Red, Gold, and Bold. And, of course, our great friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Your parking lot's the first impression customers get of your business. Protect that property with Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Parking lot repairs, resurfacing, seal coating, striping, and concrete work. Their experienced crews handle it all. Learn more at GannAsphalt.com. For Jeff Chadiha, for Sam McDowell, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold.